Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Empowered Musician of the Month. Brendon Shapiro is with us today. He's a
Hello.
pianist, vocal coach, conductor, and he champions new music and opera of the 20th and 21st centuries. He's a former young emerging artist with Boston Lyric Opera and LA Opera. He's helped musically prepare really iconic works and new works and has worked with big names like Renee Fleming and Susan Graham, and I'm so happy to have you today and kind of pick your brain. What recent things have you been working on?
Oh my gosh, it's already been such a year. This early this year, I was assistant conductor at Boston Conservatory, and we were working on the opera As One, along with an Offenbach operetta, The Island of Tulipatan. So that was a double bill at Boston Conservatory. I jumped right from that into a production at Odyssey Opera of called Awakenings with Tobias Picker. Now I'm working on Bluebeard's Castle at Boston Lyric Opera. So it's been sort of back to back to back productions, and I could use a nap.
I'm sure we could all. We need to all schedule that in our
Yes.
busy lives. So you are an arts leader and you have your number one, you're co-artistic director of Catalyst New Music, and you're also the executive director and is it music director of Boston Singers Resource?
Sometimes it feels like that, but yeah, executive director is my official title at BSR. Yeah.
Awesome. What do both of these organizations mean to you, and what have they done for the community?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with Boston Singers Resource. So I took over as the leader of BSR in January of last year, 2022. What year is it? And it's been such a wonderful experience for me, first of all, learning the ropes in terms of arts admin and how to organize an event, book a venue, balance a spreadsheet. All of these different things are things that I've learned sort of as I went. And it's been such a useful experience for me. And I also feel like it's been a great chance to sort of just help the singing community in New England, through creating new events. Like we just did a song recital called Fuse Collaborations in Song, where we commissioned poets and composers to write brand new songs specifically with our singers, like individual singers in mind, BSR members. So that was a really useful experience for those singers, and also a wonderful experience for me as well, because I got to accompany the songs. So that was really fun. We've started a new initiative called No Stress Studio this year at BSR, where singers can come and just kind of sing whatever they want in front of their colleagues, and it's a very like low-key chance to just try out some new repertoire and get some more experience performing in front of an audience. Initiatives like this are what I'm really passionate about bringing to BSR, and I hope to do much more going forward.
Oh, that's
Um,
really cool.
yeah,
Go
so that's
ahead. I just interrupted you.
so that's one of the things I'm doing. Catalyst New Music is an organization I started with my husband Omar. I guess 2019 was our first show, but we're finally like officially incorporated and we're working on nonprofit status. So I'm really excited about it. And basically, Catalyst New Music's mission is to develop new works. People that we really believe in, creators and performers who we think have that bright light going on, that creative spark. We want to really give them the floor, give them an avenue to create new works and sort of put their best foot forward artistically. So we've been developing new operas, new songs, and we have some new things coming down the line very soon, which we're excited about as well. So yeah, sort of juggling these two organizations has been pretty much a full-time job for the last year or so.
I can imagine. And just out of curiosity, where do you find the funding for these really amazing like passion projects that you have?
That's a great question. So we were lucky enough to get a few grants at the start of Catalyst New Music from, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the name of it right now. Live Arts Boston grant. And they were very generous with a couple grants to fund our first couple of projects. So that was sort of what got us going. And now we've sort of been working on building a donor base, continuing to apply for grants and ticket sales. So those are pretty much the three main sources of funding for these projects. And so far we're doing okay. So we just got to keep plugging forward. And if there are any expert fundraisers out there, please feel free to come on board. We could really use some help.
Yeah, arts admin is not a joke. And
No.
adding the funding onto that, like it takes a village. I'm wondering,
Yeah.
like, how do you create these connections and how do you maintain them? Do you have like a big group helping you with these projects?
It's a moderate sized group. We've recently have officially announced our board members, so that's sort of our starting place. We do have some lovely donors who will contribute every now and then. And yeah, we're just hoping the more that we do, the more exposure we get, yeah, just the more excitement and enthusiasm we generate, the more donations will come in. So that's the hope and that's the plan.
Awesome. Well, it was really interesting researching your career and kind of seeing which projects you've taken on and prioritized. I think something that stuck out for me was like your advocacy, specifically like with composers of color and new works. I think it was like the Butterfly Project. You had an opera about Malcolm X. I'm wondering like how you've kind of found that niche and how you use your platform to kind of like uphold these beliefs of yours.
Yeah, so it is. I'm glad you caught on to that. That is something that I really am trying, especially going forward. I'm really trying to prioritize certain works. When gigs are offered to me or I apply to things, I really do want to make sure that the stories being told are really relevant to today's audiences and to a diverse audience. There's so many pianists out there who love to play Mozart and who love to play bel canto, and I have some fondness for those things as well. But I think there's plenty of pianists for those projects, and I really want, I also am really a fan of just contemporary music and working with living composers. So all of those things kind of come together I mean, it wasn't necessarily such a deliberate choice, but it has sort of worked out that I'm mostly doing new music now, and I'm really happy with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you balance like your personal rep? Because I was on your YouTube and I was listening to you play all this solo repertoire and it's freaking incredible. I'm wondering how
Oh,
you balance being an administrator, a vocal coach, a pianist. How do you balance all these things in your life?
thank you. Yeah, my YouTube. So that's something I started during the pandemic when I had a little bit more time to just be at the piano recording myself, playing random things. Yeah, the balance is maybe a little bit off there because I haven't been doing so much of that lately. It's something I love to do, but I think right now I'm really sort of focused on bringing these organizations to a great place. And maybe once things have stabilized there a bit and I feel like, we're in a good spot, maybe I can get back to a little bit more of that yeah, what did you say? More individualized music or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, like your personal portfolio. Yeah.
yeah. And something else that I really want to do is do more recital rep with my husband. He's a tenor and also a composer. So I'm really passionate about performing his music and performing with him. And it hasn't happened so much lately as well. So that's something we really want to do more of is recitals together.
Oh, that's so cool. Was that your husband on YouTube?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, awesome. I always love meeting our empowered musicians of the month after stalking them for a couple of weeks. Oh, okay, awesome. Well, I'm wondering if you have any tips for like emerging leaders and like musical entrepreneurs who have a big idea. Like, what's the first step? What do you tell them to do?
That's such a great question. I think one thing I've been noticing lately with a lot of, my fellow musicians, colleagues, there's a lot of imposter syndrome that goes on where people don't feel like they're not experienced enough, they're not talented enough, whatever it is, to take that step. If you have a great idea, take the step. I mean, you only live once, and no one fully knows the full ropes of what they're doing. So if you feel like, oh, I don't know how to balance a budget yet, I don't know how to write a grant, whatever it is, you'll figure it out. Learn as you go. I mean, that's really the only way, because if you wait until you're fully prepared for something, you're never going to feel fully prepared. The only way you will feel that way is by taking the plunge, feeling uncomfortable for a couple months, and eventually you'll be like, hey, I can do this. So that's sort of my big thing is just, as I know it's easier said than done, but if you can tell that imposter syndrome to jump out the window, I think you'll be much better off for that.
That's great advice. Have
Yeah.
you always had this sort of gumption and drive? Like what were
Nope.
you like in college?
So for a very long time, I sort of stuck at the piano. So I'm a collaborative pianist is sort of still my main thing, a vocal coach. And so I felt very safe for a long time behind the piano. He was like, oh, this is where I can be useful to singers, which is great. I can make some money doing this. And I don't have to leave my comfort zone. I don't really have to open my mouth much. I can just kind of sit there, play the piano, and people are happy. And then I realized at some point along the way, I'm like, this isn't quite enough for me. I really need I want to be feeling like I'm having more of an impact in the world, in the arts world and greater world. So I think actually the pandemic was, I know this is probably true for so many people, but a little bit of a turning point for me where I was like, you know what, I feel like I can kind of start fresh. It gave me a little bit of a chance to evaluate my life thus far and say, is this enough? I don't know. I kind of want to have a little bit more agency. And some of my ideas that I've had, when you play for enough opera companies and you see the way different things are run, some things are great, some things not so great, and you learn a lot about how you would do it. I'm sure we've all had these thoughts like, if I were in charge, I'd do it this way. There's only one way to actually test that out, is to actually do it. So I kind of worked up the courage to apply for some things that I never thought I would, start some of my own things that I never thought I would. And I'm the sort of person who, the busier I am, the happier I am, which is maybe not true of everyone. And there's certainly a limit, and I may be reaching that limit. But no, I'd say, if you have an idea, if you have something, because so many of us studied as musicians, and then we think sort of, that's what I'm meant to do, is perform. And that's sort of the only, of course, keep performing, but also have some other things going on as well. Dana Varga, who is, I think, one of your previous Empowered musicians, she talks about a correlating career. And I think that's so brilliant. I'm so much more happy now and more fulfilled now that I'm doing more than just the piano stuff. I still do the piano stuff and I love it, but I think it's great to have just more variety in life, and then you learn so much more and your music makes more sense. It's more meaningful when you've been doing other things as well.
Yeah. Wonderful. I agree to all those points. I'm wondering if you have any goals for the future, either personally or for your two organizations that you lead.
Oh, I have so many goals. Maybe I'll talk about Catalyst New Music. So my goal is to sort of develop that organization further, bring in new voices that we really want to, there's so many projects that are bubbling with potential, and I want to bring those to life. So that's obviously a huge goal. I also want to make sure that the projects that we've done in the past, the operas that we've created, continue to get performed. So something that my husband and I are currently working on is sort of ways to reach out to other companies, let them know what we've been working on, and encourage them to take a look at some of the works that we have on our menu in a way. And we're of course going to keep building that menu. So that's Catalyst. What are my goals with Boston Singers Resource? There's so many things that we want to be doing. We want to be redesigning the website. We want to be creating more opportunities, so one of the main things that Boston Singers Resource does is help connect singers with job opportunities through, people post announcements through our website. And something I really want to make sure is that our website becomes more intuitive and user-friendly, so that singers can kind of, oh, this is a perfect opportunity for my friend. Let me tag my friend. And then they'll get a message, or, things like that, where it's a little bit more of a social experience and not so, you get an announcement and then that's the end of it. So there's lots of ideas I have for that. There's always so many things. And of course, it's not just me, it's our board and staff as well, who have lots of ideas as well that we're trying to put into place. So that's the fun thing about getting a great team together, is everyone has so many ideas. It's like, where do we even begin?
Oh, you brought up a really good point about making new works long lasting. And I'm wondering if there's is there a formula? I know there's probably not like a prescribed, this will become part of the canon, but what makes a new work stick with audiences?
That's such a great question. That's something we've been thinking about nonstop. So when you look at a few of the pieces that get done a lot, one that always comes to mind is the opera As One, which I just assistant conducted at Boston Conservatory. So that's a piece that's been done, I think, almost 60 times now. And it was developed in the 2014, 2015. So it's been only around for not even 10 years, I think. I'm sort of making numbers up, but it's in that vicinity. And so there's some special ingredient there. And I think it's a combination of a very timely and important message. It's about a character who goes through a gender change. It's a transgender character who goes from male to female over the course of the opera. So that's something that I think audiences, are maybe curious about and want to experience to get that perspective. So that's one thing. It has a very small, it's just a string quartet. So it's very, affordable to produce because it's a small orchestra and also just two singers on stage. So I think that that's sort of the sweet spot, the combination of accessible music, relevant theme, and small forces that can be done in if you want to do in a black box space as well as on a main stage. It can work in a lot of different types of venues and on many different budgets. So I think that's something that we're keeping in mind as we think about what pieces we want to produce. Make sure it's something relevant, that the music is something that audiences can relate to, and that is affordable to be replicated again and again.
Really, really awesome insight. Kind of switching gears a bit, going into our work-life balance. How do you do it all while taking care of yourself and your mental and physical health?
I was very afraid you'd ask me this question. So a lot of people who know me are aware right now that I'm not necessarily finding that balance yet. So I took on a lot last year, and I'm starting to feel like things are calming down a little bit, and I'm finding a little bit more of a balance. I'm cooking again. For a long time, I was like, I didn't have any time to make meals. It was just crazy. I was always in the car driving from one thing to the next on a Zoom meeting, whatnot. Things are starting to calm down, and I'm starting to really prioritize my mental health more. Like I mentioned before, I've discovered about myself that I'm happiest when I'm busiest to a point. So I like being busy, but I do need to budget a little bit more time for breaks. Today is actually my first day off in a very long time, and I'm really enjoying it. And I have a cat who helps me with my mental health. Getting him was wonderful. In a couple of weeks, I'm taking a trip to actually visit my husband in Portland, Oregon, where he's performing at Portland Opera. And I'm going to treat that like a vacation. I'm turning my emails to, whatever it is, like forwarding it back and saying, I'm not available until this date, which I've never done before, but I'm realizing I really need to do that for myself. So yeah, finding those just couple of days to travel, relax, whatever it is that sort of fuels you, make sure you're taking that time for yourself.
That's awesome. Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music? I think you mentioned your cat. I think I saw on your Instagram you are a big board game fan. Is there anything else you can tell us about?
Those are pretty much it. No, yeah, so board games have long been a passion of mine. I haven't had nearly enough time to play them lately, but if I could show you my big stack down there, I have quite a collection. My cat has been an amazing hobby as well, although I don't know if he's so much of a hobby as like part of the family, but what other hobbies do I have? This is terrible. I'm a writer as well, so I really enjoy. I actually have sort of a fantasy book in the works, and it's been in the works for like over a decade.
That is too cool.
Maybe one day I'll get back around to like editing it and trying to maybe self-publish or something. I don't know, but I think leaving it as a hobby for now is good because there's plenty going on in my professional life or whatnot. So.
As if you don't have enough on your plate.
Yeah.
If you wanted to add something on your plate, I think it would be really cool if we had like an opera board game. I don't know how that would work.
It's funny you say that. Just stay tuned.
Oh my goodness, is this an exclusive announcement we might be having?
An exclusive scoop on this, yes. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I do have ideas. So
awesome. Well, I guess I want to finish this up by asking you what brings you joy and what makes you feel the most empowered?
That's a really great question. So I think, what really brings me joy, especially in this business, I guess we can talk about, is being helpful to others and also being helpful to the industry. So I think sort of my career has gone many different ways sort of all at once. And I think it's because I'm sort of drawn to this, this singer needs a pianist. So let me help them with a recording session, whatever. So that's one thing. Oh, this organization needs an executive director. Let me apply. This opera company needs a pianist or a conductor. So let me go for that. So I've really found a lot of joy in like finding those places where I'm needed and being as helpful as I can. And so that's brought me a lot of joy. Bringing new works to life with Catalyst New Music. So like I talked about, we had that art song recital recently, and just realizing this poetry, this music would not have been written had we not sort of organized and commissioned these works was a really joyful thing for me to experience. And they turned out so great. It was a little bit of a risk. It's like, you have no idea what you're going to get when you commission new works. They were all fantastic, and the audience loved it. And And I just could not have been more thrilled to know that I was a part of bringing those works into existence. So that was a really joyful thing for me. When I get that sense from the audience that they were enthusiastic about the performance, you're doing something right. So that was, I think that's currently what's keeping me going.
Thank you so much for chatting with us today. Our Empowered Musician of the Month, Brendon Shapiro. Please check him out on all of his social medias and other such things. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much, Maya. Really nice to meet you.
Yes, you too. Take care.
Bye.